happens out in the middle. The last of the recognised batters for England.
Hi everyone, we've got a rather diabolical England batting lineup has been resurrected somewhat by a cameo from Stuart Broad. And England are currently 7 for 141. Yes, 7 wickets for 141. It's really really am disappointed with England. Actually, they've done so well up until this point. So this is Norman Koshnik with eyes on cricket. I'm watching Rabada bowling a slow ball. Stuart Broad got out for 35 off 29 balls, quite commendable. But in terms of totals, this is ordinary. So England, we're all out for 165, and they're heading for the same total again. They're currently 7 for 141 after South Africa got 326 all out. And England that trail at this moment by 20 runs, and I don't think they'll be able to get that. It'll depend on how Stokes takes the strike, but Potts is in there at the moment. He's playing a bit better organised than some of the other batters. He's got a single there, 7 for 142. So, really, this is quite an ordinary performance by England. At Lord's, the home of cricket, you would not expect such a total to come out of them after the way they've been playing in previous matches against both India and New Zealand. So far, England, Lee's got out for 35. He was looking okay. Corby 13, Pope 5, Root 6, Bairstow 18. A great little spell by Norgay. And then we're down to Potts and Stokes. Ben Folk got out to a shocker. He got out caught chasing the ball, which he probably shouldn't have done. He did. Potts and Stokes. Ben Folk got out to a shocker. It's it's a very disappointing effort, I must say. From I still don't think. Who knows? Russ Heller's talking about a great Bazball. Bazball certainly failed this time around. And I would argue this is probably going to be into the same mode as the first things. I don't know. I can't really comprehend what's going on here. This seems to be. What's this? Yeah, it's very disappointing indeed. Why aren't you eating anything? As when Karthik's asking. Hey, I'm basically a bit late. I had a cup of coffee, as in here. We'll get on before too long. It is, in fact, the 20th of August here at the moment. It's still the 19th of August in most other places in the world, but it's actually the 20th of August here, Saturday, 20th of August. England at 7 for 143 to trail by 18. Potts on 1 and Stokes on 17 on out. This is by no means a good situation. England trailing by 18, they've already lost. I'm not on a diet, Ashwin, that's for sure. There's a lot of discussion that this is the best bowling attack in the world. Rabada, Norgay, obviously Marco Jensen and Nagidi with Maharaj. Now, I don't agree with that at all. I think there's a few teams in contention. Australia obviously won. I think the New Zealand bowling is like Trent Bolt and the like, and Southey when they're in form are up there with the best as well. And England, well, Anderson and Broad certainly are okay, but haven't had much of an opportunity in this test match to show their wares. But this is not the best bowling attack. Well, Rabada certainly is one of the best bowlers. Norjay's pretty handy indeed as well. But Ben Stokes is a fighter, that's for sure. 7 for 145, the trial by 16, so we might have to see South Africa bat again, but they won't bat for very long. You wouldn't think. This is day 3, and there's still a fair degree of the day to go at this point. And so I can see the game being. It's not even it's the second session still. It's still the second session. So they've got the whole session to not only get the score, but why you are a big fan of me. Why am I a big fan of you, Sam Heslop? I'm not sure. Well, I mean, Ashwin and Sam Heslop are having a bit of a quiet chat here. A beautiful sun-drenched ground here at Lords. The ground is, it's not the middle wicket either, it's towards one side. Marco Jensen proved himself he can bat as well. He got some 40-odd runs when he batted. 6 foot, quite an amazing height player. And Stokes is the only one who seems to be really put any resistance. Alex Lees, I'll give it to him. He did hang around a fair bit, but got a bloody good ball. So did Ben Folkes, and so did Bairstow. All from the bowling of Norgé, who certainly has looked good. Rabada's come on and taken the wicket of good old Stuart Broad, who was certainly whacking it for his 35 or 29 balls. Sam Hislett says so there we've got the best bowling attack. I don't know. I'm still underwhelmed by the South African team. They're going extremely well in this match, but I'm underwhelmed by them. Although Bazball may have had its day. Bazball or Bazbat, whatever you want to call it. The process of what Brendan McCullum has brought to the South Africa side, were they more attacking? They certainly have been. They haven't quite been able to get on top of this attack in this match. It is only one test match. You're going to need noodles, Ashwin. Go on there. Look at, and Mark Boucher's there on the balcony. He's the current coach, I believe, or whatever. That's pretty competent coach indeed. And there goes Potts bowled comprehensively with Marco Jensen. England are 8 for 146, trail by 15. So they've only got Leach and Anderson to go, and they're going to be lucky to get past the score, the one score of South Africa. And the ball's just shaped in nicely. Certainly just shaped in nicely. Marco Jensen just taking a look at there. He had batted well as well early in the innings, and Potts lasted not long. He got 1 run off 5 balls. And he was still trailed by 15 runs with 8 wickets down. So they might be lucky to get a run past the score, which will be very embarrassing. The 2 South African overs going up to face what will be an over. This is definitely going to be over today. I can't see this going past today. We're into the second session of the day's play on day 3, and the match is bloody over. This is atrocious. England got to have a good think about what they're up to at the moment. Yes, they did play well against India. Yes, they played well against New Zealand. But at the moment, they're getting summarily smacked by a South African team that certainly is competent. Whether it's an outstanding South African side, I'll wait and see. They are at the moment leading the World Test Championship. Yet to play Australia and England, and well, at least Australia. And this will only help them cement their spot, and will make it difficult for both India and or Pakistan to have any chance of getting into the World Test Championship final. So Jack Leach is coming to bat. He's played 27 Test matches, scored 400 runs, average of 13.79. Well, it's not the worst in the world. He's coming ahead of James Anderson, but he's going to face Rabada, which will be difficult enough as it is. Rabada seems to be bowling from the nursery end. Ben Stokes has just absolutely whacked him, and is he out? He's out. Unbelievable. Ben Stokes has given Rabada one hell of a huge whack, but Maharaj, with some ease, has just caught Ben Stokes on the boundary for 20. Good hit though, but straight to the fielder. And England are 9 for 146. Still trailed by 15 runs. We may not need to see South Africa bat again. He gave it one hell of a swack, and it's gone straight and quite fast out to Maharaj. Took a pretty good catch. So Sam Hislett, SA batting is poor. If Australia have bat well against South Africa, they can beat them 3-0 or 2-0. But first selectors need to improve selections. Need to bring back Renshaw. He is dominating domestic like he. Okay. So the members' entrance there with Ben Stokes is walking back in. A smallish clap for his 20. So now the last wicket to fall is here in front of us. Jack Leach and James Anderson need to get 15 runs to make South Africa bat again. Not much really. So we all thought England's first innings total was low. Well, let me tell you, 164.65 could well be surpassed by their second innings where they've only got 146. All that for 165, or worse than the second innings, 9 for 146. Chasing a medal of 326, which they look like they're going to be, well, they're 15 runs short at the moment. And you would be hard pressed to imagine these two can actually go past that. Anderson has played 173 test matches. He's scored 1,284 runs. And not LV average. Bouncer's laughing his head off at the moment. Very happy. Renshaw hit 300s in this English One Day Cup. He's got to do it for Australia, though. And he's capable. Roberto will probably absolutely clean bowl Anderson. And they had 15 runs to even make South Africa bat again with day 3, second session. So really only finished 2.5 days. Oops. Anderson lets the ball go tentatively. That's the last stop. Both Leach and Anderson, both on ducks. Leach hasn't faced the ball yet. Anderson's faced the one ball. Not looking very promising. Not promising at all. What a bit of sunshine has done to the South Africans there. Playing very well. Oops, it's a single taker. Oh boy, this is a no ball. Well, we can prove how well we played without frontline keeper. Ben Folkes was out. It seemed to have done well. Roberto probably wants to finish off Leach or Anderson. England only faced 36 deliveries, 36 overs. It's really showing Roberto in great form. Doesn't catch well. Roberto comes in from the nursery round. I think it's negligence rather than anything else. And no raw signals. Try by 12. I'm falling asleep here, guys. It's becoming boring. Nausea. Certainly coming with a great spell of these 3 wickets. 9 for 149. Big test is can they actually last and beat their first innings with 165? Because in fact they would be 4 in front then. It's quite ordinary. So wickets have fallen very, very off the biggest from this first and second and third. So it's hour. And Marco Jensen will finish off this last week, I would think. I would imagine. Oops. There we are. There we are. Oops. Anderson looks all at sea at the moment. Bloody ordinary. Indeed. I'm impressed with this whole course. The ball's still moving around. There's a fair bit of movement. And very little that was evident when England bowling. Situation. McGiddy has played a small role, not a big role. And will certainly be despondent. We wouldn't have an answer to this unless we were here.
Norman.
This is atrocious.
Doesn't do a lot for ticket sales, does it, on Saturday?
No. This is barely into the second session of day 3.
I know.
At Lord's.
Yeah, well, it always fires up the opposition. So.
Yes, I mean, I think Dean Elgar's probably going to ruin his back muscles. He's jumping so much into Marco Jensen, which would be one huge high jump.
It's no, they've played really well, South Africa. You know, often.
There it is. They've just won by an innings and 12 runs, David.
Yeah.
Jensen's just bowled James Anderson. South Africa won by innings and 12 runs. This is at Lord's. That's pretty embarrassing result, isn't it?
Well, losing's not a great occasion anyway, but we have lost a few at Lord's. I've often thought it's acted as a bit of an inspiration for the opposition, but you know, the same ailments. You know, sort of losing the top order, and also in our case, if Joe Root doesn't get any money, doesn't get any runs, then that is terminal for England. So,
but let's just have a look at this. England scored 165 in the first innings. Now I can understand a good day for bowling for South Africa. They got the early start. It was convincing, but to be all out in the second innings for less than that 165 and 149 is what really shocked me.
Yeah, sadly it doesn't shock me. What they did face was an extraordinary spell of plus 90 miles an hour bowling, which was pretty formidable. But Michael Vaughan, not he's a clairvoyant or whatever, but when you're conceding a lead over 100, the game can end pretty quickly if you don't bat properly, and that's sadly in England's case has happened again. So there'll be the normal sort of inquiry in terms of opening the batting, but I think they've named the same squad for the second test. So it'll be interesting to see how well, first of all, what they say about it. But I think they'll be upbeat, Norman. I don't think that they'll suddenly sort of be doom and gloom. There should be. Sorry for the spectators who bought tickets, and and have made, I should imagine, quite complicated travel arrangements for tomorrow because there's a rail strike again in the UK. So I'm surprised.
I'm quickly going to have to add though here. Okay, South Africa have definitely smacked them today.
Yeah.
But does that make South Africa the best test side at the moment?
No, but I think it's further confirmation of how well that they, have started the new era, I would say. So I was reading an interesting article by Vincent van der Baal, who's not only was an outstanding bowler, but as an administrator, he's been brilliant in everything he's done. And by the counts, the Future Tour program has not been kind to South Africa because they've dealt them a series of 2 Test match series, which it's over before it's begun, really. And I think this series, though they're not obviously 5 Test matches, but a 5 Test match series, I think, should always be try and protect it because it can ebb and flow. And I'm sure England will bounce back after this, but they will have had a rude awakening, I think. So combined with the white ball form, there's some work to be done.
Absolutely. You have to still question the opening slots for this England batting lineup because, as we know, the opening batters are the key to a good start of an innings, and they've failed on a few occasions now in a row. I mean, Lee's got 35 today. He lasted a bit longer.
I think this seam attack that the South Africa got is a really potent force. The one thing that I would question maybe is the depth of their batting, but again, they got stuck in. The left arm seamer got 40 odd, and that actually what was a decisive passage of play was the last. I don't know whether you saw it, Norman. The last hour yesterday, where they suddenly went on the counter offensive to say, right, we're not going to just stick around here and try and get singles or whatever. We're going to take it to you to create a bigger lead, which they did, which would have been very deflating for England.
Well, Stuart Broad got 35 off 29 deliveries. He had some fours and 6.
Did you see it there? It was just it was like helicopter batting basically. So, but it can be dangerous. It's just I was engaged in a conversation around under-19 cricket. Actually, Stuart Broad was actually firstly considered as an opening batsman, not as a bowler. Bowling came very late in his career.
Well, it certainly took over, didn't it?
Yeah. So so it'll be interesting to see what happens. But at least there's a bit of cricket around the world. So India managed to another much changed team, Norman, I would have to say, playing in Zimbabwe, but gives people the opportunity. So I only know that
about 90 Indian players get an opportunity to play for India of late, including the Sri Lankan series early in the year. They've just tried that about everybody. And look, I get that, but I think India's biggest problem is they're not settling on a final 11.
They'll be confused by their riches that they can choose from. That people will have a good game. So how does that stack up about the guys that who've played in the past? But the IPL threw up an array of batting talent that is beyond belief, and how they accommodate it is a different matter. But coming back to England, I'm not dodging that. They'll have, I'm sure, the same conversations about opening and batting. The players will then feel under massive pressure coming into the next test, which this seam attack will exploit. That is a fine collection of bowlers, and they're all fit because normally some of them are injured. And it is, to be fair, the same as Australia. When their bowlers are fit, they are formidable. So yeah, there'll be much debate, much wailing going on, Norman, but life will go on. I just have to.
Life will go on. That's for sure. But it is there's an element of the way that they played against both India and New Zealand earlier in the year, where gave it to both those teams and did very, very well. Have they petered out somewhat? Have they had too much Test cricket?
No, they haven't had. To me, there's the breaks of the amount of cricket that people, what I would call red ball specialists. So if you look at that team, then Stokes quite rightly has to manage his fitness. I'm really old school, Norman. I think there is a rhythm to how you play, and I'm suggesting to a couple of lads, if you know, I know Will Smead reasonably well. I know his family very well.
Yeah.
That I think there is a grave danger of becoming a white ball specialist. And I think that's a little bit the same for Jason Roy. If you get in a trot of form, what are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to keep swinging from the hip because that's the way the game's played, where you're getting mentally eroded because, you know, can't locate the ball or something like that. So I think there's I say that on the back of my uncle's experience of being a international player. He had a net every day of his life if he was playing. Didn't matter whether he was fielding, whether he was 150 not out, he had a net 9 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
I'm sure there's a lot of players the same way. He didn't have to bowl, but so that this and I think that the key thing in this country is that Andrew Strauss is having this performance review and what the structure will be of our domestic cricket, because it's challenging, I think, for the players because they're playing different formats. Sometimes let me give you an example. There's a number of young batsmen who are within the 100 ball squads. They've got to have squads. Who basically haven't picked up a bat for 3 weeks. They then finish the 100 ball game and they have 4 championship matches to decide the championship, which is the blue ribbon event. And some of these young batters wouldn't have picked a bat up for 4 weeks and certainly wouldn't have seen a red ball. So,
that's true. We've been joined by Jai Nara Alam. She's actually the Bangladesh women's opening bowler. She's I've gotten to talk to her a lot lately, and she'll come on the show before too long. She's joined us now. She is quite an exceptional player. She's played for Bangladesh for quite a few years now in women's cricket, and certainly so give her a shout out, David, at Jai Nara Alam. She's joined us today.
I very look forward to meeting her. You have a very impressive array of female people who join the program who are very knowledgeable about the game. So obviously they must be.
Jai Nara, I'm going to challenge her to come on now. Her English is, in my opinion, absolutely perfect for the show. And I've spoken to her a bit off. We're talking about some aspects of her time in New Zealand coming up and Australia in the future. She's looking at spending some time here, and I'm looking forward to that. She's going to join the likes of Nalakshi De Silva, who's been here before, and you've had Shapali on the show, and
very, very knowledgeable, particularly when it gets on anything debated about England-India cricket. Gets quite emotional, so which is great. You know, that's why India are the force they are, because it's a great passion for them. So.
Well, I was just talking today to Buri Majumdar and a guy called Debashish Sen, both from India. They're coming out here for the World Cup, which is happening in October, November. And we're going to be working together on a broadcast from all the World Cup venues throughout Australia. And David, if you've got time and you're up, or whether you're sleeping or not.
I'll be watching it, so don't worry. So.
Well, we're going to be we're going to be at a number of games in Perth, Melbourne, Adelaide, and Sydney. We're not going to Brisbane, which is unfortunate. We're going to be all the other locations. And we'll be there for the semi-finals and finals as well. So that's a broadcast doing in collaboration with Rev Sports in India.
They are spreading it around the country. There's no suggestion of playing in 2 venues, so they're going to use all the venues in Australia.
Absolutely. That seems rock solid at this point, with obviously the MCG being the final hosting location. But India, Pakistan are playing the big matches, they would call it, in Melbourne, in the middle of all of that, so we'll be there for that. Games against England, of course. Now, I still predict England will go very well. I think they'll make the semi-finals. That's my prediction for T20 World Cup, along with Australia, India, and Pakistan. I think England's still got. Well, they've still got the strong potential there.
And they have, but they definitely need some of their key bowlers. Geoffrey Archer is a key person in this because he's, extreme pace, as has been shown today. Whether he would have played, the situation with extreme pace like that, he took 3 wickets in the space of 3 overs, which basically destroyed the game from an England perspective. And with seriously quick bowling, that's 92, 93 miles an hour. So I don't know.
When is he due back?
Sorry?
When is Geoffrey Archer due back?
Well, I don't wish to be gloom and doom, but he's had a couple of setbacks, and I've bored your listeners with my views of the danger of elbow injuries. So I just keep fingers crossed and wish him well that he does come back, because he's just such a serious talent.
Oh my heavens!
And it's amazing how Lampleshane's career started because Geoffrey Archer hit Steve Smith on the head, and he came on as injury substitute, and then his career, you obviously wouldn't want to do it through misfortune to somebody else, but
Markwood's the other one, isn't he? He's another one with serious pace who they're probably missing at the moment as well.
Yeah, he's and they quite like left arm over bowlers. So Reece Topley in the 100 ball game's done really, really well. Actually, in the limited over games,
yes.
That. So he's coming back from injury. Jason Roy's situation will only be a temporary one, and if it takes a bit longer than most, there are a number of young batters queuing up to bat at the top of the order. And then one person who it doesn't go under the radar, but when you see him bat, you just think, God, I can't believe he can hit it that far. Is this Dawid Malan? His record playing T20 is extraordinary, really.
Exactly. They've got to give him more faith. I mean, even in the Test arena, I'm frustrated that he's not on the side, because his form in Australia was certainly not bad.
No. Yeah, he's but Vagary's a selection. I'm well versed on that area. No one's worried about that. But he's played exceptionally well, and there are other guys and people who had some success in Australia, like James Vince. The moment anybody starts talking publicly about James Vince playing for England, his form just seems to collapse. Whereas if he's just playing for Hampshire and the franchise that he's playing, but I think the subject that you were briefing me on is the number of other franchises that are breaking out all over the world. I think is a real concern for the UK, of young players who are breaking onto the scene, playing first class cricket, but also playing T20 cricket. They're going to be signed rapidly by this. And I'm you know far more than I do, Norman, about how the structure is, but it just looks like that you'll be just playing T20 12 months a year. You're just
look what happens in January. We've got the Big Bash in Australia. We've got the UAE League as well as the so-called South African League. And I've looked at the teams. There's a whole lot of players signed up. Almost a number of West Indians, Sri Lankans all signed up in the UAE League. In South Africa, there's a plethora of English players. Yeah. It's very concerning. And this whole concept of a year-long IPL squad, we'll call it, with the likes of Mumbai and Chennai having teams with different colorations and different names, but connected throughout the world.
Yeah, under the
packages, apparently they're serving up packages between 10 and 20 million for these players. That's pretty hard to say no to that.
It's the same principle as LIV golf, Norman, as we were saying before.
Exactly, the same concept almost entirely. And as you would probably agree with it, there's going to be I've had a chat with a few people about that today, where what's probably going to happen is an LIV golf and the normal PGA will have to merge at some stage.
Well, this is you're far too young to remember this, Norman, but this is exactly the same road that Packer and that scenario happened with the ACB and the impact it had around the world with the various boards and things like that, and the Test and Canning Cricket Board trying to take Packer to court, which wasn't successful. It just looks the same scenario of establishment being challenged, and the only end result that can happen is that the players will benefit financially, but the end result is that the establishment has to sit down with the other organisations involved and hammer out something that is agreeable to both parties. But the influence of India is just growing everywhere. So,
well, the money now that's been thrown, and in particular the IPL, which is going to extend to this year-long 20 tournament scenario, is literally in the hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, well into the billions, quite frankly. And the World of Cricket can't match that. Even the ICC would be struggling in their identity to do that. So, Ahmed Raza, who's a Pakistan background, is saying the pros have clinched a commanding and magnificent victory against England. Dean Elgar is a fantastic leader. Well, he certainly is.
He's
still a bit
not fantastic. I think he put frenetic, but the way he was leaping around all over the place probably is a frenetic leader. But I think the way that he played, and I see the turning point of South Africa's fortunes is that series against India, when I don't think that they expected to win. They expected to win, but not many people gave them much of a chance with all the things that were happening off the field to their management. And Dean Elgar, you can never doubt his courage and his grittiness to carve out runs in the most difficult of situations. And he basically blunted India at Johannesburg on his own, basically. So,
to me, South Africa have shocked me, really. Their bowling, I get. They've got a decent bowling line. But their batting, especially when you lose people like Hashim Amla and obviously De Villiers and the like, you don't recover quickly from those losses. But we've got Mel Jones from Australia. And look, can I just make a comment here? Mel Jones, I respect. But I'm a bit perplexed with your additions to your commentary panel at the moment. I don't quite know where you've got a heavy influx of Australians. And I'm sorry, you can't match Shane Warne. So I don't know what's going on there, but you've got a bit of a big.
Be very careful what you say, Norman.
I don't mean it to be disparaging at all of Mel Jones at all.
Suddenly there was a game that was finishing the commentators, and one of them I can understand was Lisa Kitely, who has obviously just decided to finish with England and go back to Perth. I've met Lisa not recently, pre-COVID, and she's a really, really impressive lady. Who quietly gets on with the job, and sometimes coaches pay a heavy penalty for basically players that underachieve. They might be the best players, but if they don't perform, and I suppose the Commonwealth Games would have been the icing on the cake. Probably the wrong words, icing on the cake, but it was. Australia did what they did, and I can understand why Meg Lanning wants to take a bit of a break, because she has won everything. There's nothing else to win other than just keep not plodding along. So a break from the game would be really good for her. But who I would place for, though, at the cost of England, sadly not getting what they wanted to do, was New Zealand, because New Zealand always seems to be the third party in this little arrangement. And India has some of the best players. The lady the woman who opens the batting, whose name
Shafali Verma.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable player.
Oh yes,
she plays.
But actually, the Indian women bowlers have come of age. They've certainly leapt a level or two. They're very impressive as well.
Yeah. So I've just been watching Sri Lanka under-19s play against ours in a
Right.
warm-up game, and Sri Lanka produce a lot of very impressive seam bowlers, as well as you would imagine a lot of spin bowlers who are, modelling their actions on, left-arm spinners are trying to bowl like Harath, batters, some of the shorter lads are trying to bat like you can see who they've been watching on TV, like Jayasuriya and Sangakkara. So but the one thing that came through was the discipline of their cricket. Whether they're bowling spin, whether they're bowling pace, they knew their game plan. They knew it's as if their cricket knowledge had been advanced far quicker than our guys, which probably does happen. That element of cricket knowledge of what to do at a given time and what sort of fields they should have for a given bowler is hard to achieve, and it takes a bit of time to do it. And they seem to have done that. And I was having this, like the preparation for the Test match. The guys who were not playing in the 100-ball game or white ball cricket had no cricket to play. So they had to go and have nets. This was Broad, Anderson, Lees, folks. They all had to, they went to Loughborough to do practice like that, but that's no substitute for playing matches. And I know how difficult it is to get the itineraries, how international cricket integrates with domestic cricket, but I'm sure Stripesy will come out with some wonderful plan, which it will never be perfect for everyone, but there's some obvious flaws, as I've alluded to, that mean that players, if they wanted to change the team, how are they going to change the team when nobody's playing red ball cricket?
Exactly. You've got nothing to go on.
And I think New Zealand were hampered when they came here, when some of their bowlers came straight from the IPL and walked out and played against England. And that happened with India as well, playing a one-off Test match. So, but the days of playing extensive practice matches before series just doesn't happen, does it? So
no. Although India did try to play a lot more domestic cricket games prior to the Test series.
Yeah, no, they did. Yeah, they played a few. The weather in this country, they didn't catch the heat wave and things like that. But I just look at the Test match we just had. Obviously, it's disappointing it's finished as quickly as it has. But you've got to take your hat off to South Africa. They're playing some really, really good cricket, an aggressive seam attack. Maharaj as a spinner is improving. He's not quite, he's not quite this bowler that people want to sit there and smash all over the place. He has bowled people out in Test match cricket, and he'll take some confidence from that. And an array of batsmen that are inexperienced, but they around Dean Elgar, they're doing the right job.
Now, I've got a few questions here for you. Ahmed Raz was talking about the situation with Sri Lankan bowlers, which you brought discussion about. Sam Hesler's asking, David, sir, please take my question. Why they didn't pick Sam Northeast?
Well, he had a fantastic match where he scored 400 in one game, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to play in the Test match. He's changed counties. He's gone from Kent to Glamorgan. He'll be in a group of young, or he's not necessarily young, Sam, but he's probably the right side of 30. He would be under consideration, but I think and Sam is quite right to ask the question. I always found when I was a selector, assessing batsmen is probably the most difficult thing that you can do, and part of it is how they will cope with the pressure that you can have and your technique being decimated by the pundits. I personally think Zach Crawley can play, but this now becomes an issue, a mental issue more than anything else. He's got all the shots to be able to play, but the question I think Mark Butcher, who was a very impressive commentator, did make the point in whatever form of cricket that Zach has been playing over, a few months, he hasn't got any runs in any form of cricket. So, and it's a bit like a Jason Raw. Sooner or later, it erodes your confidence, and you're just searching for the ball. And this attack is not the attack to search for the ball, because they've always been, going back to Pollock and Donald, always been a very disciplined attack. They've always sort of gone down the channel of fourth and fifth stump, allied by some serious pace as well, which is, and I know that probably losing a home series leaves some scars, and there's no doubt, when they lost to England, I was there for the Cape Town Test match. I hadn't seen live Test cricket for some time, so but they were just blown away in the last session of the last day, basically by Stokes, who appeared to be injured. First of all, Stokes smashed 100 in the morning to give them a chance to declare, and then bowled a spell, which he capable of doing, a little bit like last night, come on and bowl some seriously quick deliveries. You don't often see a long stop in Test match cricket, which is the field he had last night. So
crazy. Niraj Solanki made the very strong comment, which is very true. England already lost the game on the first day. You certainly would have to think that after their 165 they got, but then they've only compounded that with 140 odd in the second innings, so they haven't really.
I would say lost it on the very first day. Having looked at some of I didn't see it because I was watching the game that I was watching. I watched a package of the balls that didn't take wickets. That wicket did heaps, and and if England had been bowling rather than batting, South Africa would have been bowled out, I would suggest, even for less than 160. So there was an advantage by doing that. But South Africa dug in, carved out as much as they could. The opening batsman and the guy who opened with Dean Algar, I'd never seen before and never seen him play. But Dean Algar set the tone of what we're going to do here. We're going to blunt everything. And you'd have to say, how he got out was one of the more unlucky dismissals of all time, really.
Oh, for sure. They're talking to Brendan McCullum now, but I think Andrew Strauss having a few words to him, and so is Pollock. He seems extremely relaxed and rather non-committal to it, and almost like nonchalant in his reaction, which is typical Brendan McCullum. He would know that even though this was a pretty poor performance, they can move on and bounce back in the second test, which I predict they will do. I think they'll come back hard in the second.
No, they will do. They will do, and I like his approach. Some people in this country will say that he doesn't care. What is important is that there is not peaks and troughs based on victory or defeat, and that he will just take it in his stride. They're obviously, you can't get being bowled out for those sums, those totals, and expect to win. But he will keep he will work really hard together with Ben Stokes to ensure the confidence within the dressing room is maintained on a high. And I said, instead of going gloom and doom and whatever, there may be not that many good points to take out of it, but being able to bowl on the first day would have made a difference. But that wasn't to be. So just move on to the next one, attempting to make sure the confidence levels within the dressing room are maintained as high as you can. And I think
that game starts on Thursday as well. It's not very far away.
Yeah, they've got a few more days off than they were expecting.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's not often you see a Lord's match finished in 3 days, is it? They normally go the distance.
They normally do. That normally is the ground where it goes the distance. There's a few other grounds around the world where you would say that wouldn't happen. But I think, people have been disappointed. If they're not disappointed, then there's something wrong. But also, it's got to be managed in the right way. That actually, credit to the opposition. We didn't do our stuff, but I still believe in you to do it next time round. And I agree with you. I think they'll come back really strong.
I think they will. Is there typically a day for lunch that occurs at a Lord's. This is usually a media lunch happens on Thursday, so they'd be lost without that extra day or two.
There's some catering that's gone up the Swally. So somebody's going to be eating sandwiches for a very long time. So,
have you've experienced Adelaide Oval at its height with the lawn? It's not unlike a Lord's. Have you experienced the Adelaide lawn?
No. When Rod, this was after 2005. So Rod had finished as a selector, done a spell with the academy, and this was the following winter. This was the 5-0 revenge. Nobody's retiring. We're going to whop them 5-0. Then we're going to retire at the end of that. So Rod was very hospitable to Julie, who's my wife. We went to Adelaide, and I just love the cities. And Adelaide has a different sort of things from, the ability to walk to the ground from all directions. Really. And actually, the stand that was opposite the main stand, that was a new stand, and then that got knocked down when they decided for the rugby ground.
Well, that's it's all about AFL, the Australian rules that put 3 humongous, if not 4 humongous seating areas, and now they've got a hotel in the actual ground as well, which is quite stupendous.
So going back to Adelaide, so Rod introduced me to some of his friends because he played in South Australia. We went to the British pub, I think it was, which is where he used to drink with Flipper. But the one thing he did show me was the tented village, which was all over, and that's huge compared to the nursery ground, because they had it all over the tennis courts and whatever, because it is a tennis centre, isn't it? Because Leighton Hewitt, that's where he learnt his craft.
That's right.
So I wandered into a tent. He introduced me to one of his mates, and he said, and this was a Saturday of the test match. They don't move the days around as much as they do here. So it's quite an important day in test cricket in Adelaide. So I spoke to this bloke, and we were having lunch, and it was really splendid lunch. And I said, well, how many times have you come in? Oh, I've done this for 20 odd years, doing this. And where'd you sit? And they think, oh, I've never watched the ball live. I just stay in the tent. He's been in the same place for 20 years.
Oh my God.
But it was the atmosphere of the whole place, really, more than anything else. And if you remember, that was an extraordinary test match that England declared, having got a big score with Peterson getting 100, Collingwood getting 100. And then we dropped Ponting. And then, the last day always had that sort of writing on it that we wouldn't be able to get a run from Warren, and then whatever was set, Australia would chase down, and they had to go a bit of a rush, but it was an extraordinary transformation of where England were on the first day compared to what the end result was. So that was a dagger through the heart. So it's no wonder it then declined to 5-0, and a few people lost their jobs, including myself. But didn't impair on my enjoyment of going to Australia, and hopefully in my lifetime I have the opportunity to do it again.
Well, it's great to have you here for sure, and with the likes of a Shadow Tanunda, which we play, the SCG play a traditional game there. Have you been to Shadow Tanunda?
No.
That's quite an impressive setting backdrop there. Of course, it's got its own cricket ground with one of the better wineries.
It's that a version of Bowral in terms of sort of a small ground that is revered. Would that be the same comparison?
Yeah,
or not?
Something similar to that for sure. Certainly would be. But next time you come to Australia, I'll make a point of bringing you not only to Bowral, but we'll get you into Andrew Leaming's, the house he has, which is the original Bradman home.
Right.
And it's magnificent. It's really, truly not just a cricket mecca, but a sporting mecca. It's been brought back to its 1911 condition. Magnificent. You would enjoy that immensely.
Yeah. So no, I just love, I just like following my uncle's connection with Queensland.
Of course.
And seeing in a baggy crimson hat, or what is the colour of how would you describe that colour? The Queen, because all of them
maroon is what that's more of a crimson, but the colour of Queensland is maroon.
Yeah, so they've all got maroon kit on, and I just like the setup of the ground. Again, that's another ground that was probably the first one, became a concrete jungle. But the stories around Clem Jones as the mayor when Tom played, and the border field, it was a really good place for England to prepare for playing in Australia. They were very hospitable. And it's the right temperature. If you're going to play in Australia, you need to go there because that will
for sure.
in terms of humidity and heat. So the bottom line is that the people will be disappointed. Hats off to South Africa. They played some really what I describe passionate and intense cricket, because that's what they tend to do. But their seam attackers, I think they've laid a marker. This is a real international team attack. That I don't know when the next time that's due to play Australia.
But South Africa?
Yeah.
Well, we're playing West Indies and South Africa this season, actually.
Are they? Right.
Yeah.
If everybody stays fit, that'll be a full-on collision for a start. So a lot of the Australian players are leaving the 100-ball game. Is there a limited over tournament that Australia are playing soon?
Yes, there is up north in both Cairns and Townsville. There's matches against both New Zealand and Zimbabwe, I'm pretty sure.
All right, so that's why they're all going home now, is to be part of that and stake their claims to the T20.
Which is getting closer and closer by the minute. It's already late or mid to late August now, so
soon comes round, doesn't it? So
coming quickly. I'm just watching some highlights of Norgay bowling. He looks impressive. He's
fast. He's quick.
Yeah, he's not unlike Mark Wood, actually. There's a similarity, I would argue.
There is a very I'm not sure how much he does with the ball, but it is searing pace. There are bowlers around the world who can bowl at that speed. Mark Wood is one. Archer is another. So England's weapons are being diluted. Yeah.
Do you have any young fast bowlers on the horizon? Like at the under 19?
We've played in the 100-ball game, but I think who's the New Zealander who does all the commentary now? He used to open the bowling for New Zealand.
I know who it is. Oh God, I've forgotten his name. Yeah, I know who it is though.
He was very complimentary about the number of emerging quick bowlers. But that's
Simon Dewar. You mean Simon Dewar?
It's really good. He's been and he tells it straight. He doesn't try and mess around with it. But bowling 4 overs in a T20 game isn't open to bowling in a Test match. So, but there are a few. But again, they're having their heads turned, Norman, regarding franchise cricket, which is going to be a real issue for the game. So.
How do you stop an 18-year-old who's got potential to play Test cricket for not being lured for the millions which the IPL and onwards will provide?
Well, without knowing the full details, I would suspect if you go back to Packer, the governing bodies had to match the sort of fees that Packer was going to pay the players. So that is what is going to happen.
It's already happening, but we've got Dave Warner now playing with the UAE selection, where he was offered, I think, 500,000, and Cricket Australia have to match that with probably $750,000,
But he is, with the greatest fairness to him, he is coming to the back end of his career, isn't he? Because he's
true, but he's still a box office attraction. Unfortunately,
no, he is. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. But there are, and that would be probably the one. If money was, sort of contracts were offered to the Australian seam attack, it just looks to me Australia, their best 11 is really good. Not quite sure who's coming behind them in terms of options, both with bat and pace bowling, and the pace bowlers need to be wrapped up in cotton wool virtually. So,
Well,
and
they're
it, and they
simply
do
playing
with Bolt, for instance, New Zealand. Is that a tip of the iceberg, saying that you don't want to play anymore, I want to spend some time with my family, and that's certainly that sort of has definitely spread into the coaching area, where I think the coaches realise that they can earn the same and even more money for a fraction of the time of spending long times away from the families. So there are some issues other than
there's some huge issues.
England opening batsmen. There's a few bigger issues around the world, but they will bounce back, Norman. So just keep sending the links through, and I will join you as much as I can.
Thank you, David. Really appreciate it, and our audience appreciates you highly. So it's been a wonderful time to have you on. But let's hope England bat and bowl a bit longer next time.
I'm sure they will, and I'm sure, knowing I know Ben reasonably well. I've met Brendan McCullum, sat next to him at a dinner. We spent most of the time talking about golf courses. But they're very positive the way they play their cricket, and I think that's been a really refreshing attitude within the dressing room. Fine, you'll lose games. Nobody wins every single game. It's how you respond to defeat, and keep your confidence high, and don't not gloom and doom. Here we go again. Just keep looking forward, and say, right, we might have been surprised with the intensity and the expertise of their accounts, and also they will know if they're bowling out for 160, that's within their parameters to get a score that will make a difference of something like late 200s or maybe just 300, which they did in this game. That's well within the parameters of the team. If the opposition get 500, that's, I think, would test any team, and their side would be one that would do that. But getting 500 against that attack is going to be a bit of a challenge, to say the least. So, and you can't do it if you're 30 for 3 all the time. But we've been down this road before. So,
did you see? I want to end on the discussion on Broad and Anderson. They didn't have an opportunity to bowl a second innings, of course, in this Test match. But what do you think of their performances in this match so
far? I think that. I think they would have got a lot out of the wickets. It seems to me that sort of Jimmy is like sort of getting wickets at the front up at the beginning of the game, and then Broady seems to be doing it sort of towards the back end or the back end of the innings. They're very, very professional performers in what they do. But the speed would obviously not match Nokia's speed. But if there's enough in the wicket, and those conditions on the first day was just absolutely perfect. High humidity, moisture in the wicket, and as I said, some of the balls that didn't take wickets, understandably, were like cutting the batsman in half virtually. So yeah, they're but bowlers can only play with runs, Norm. So I just think that the scores involved sort of suited South Africa's sort of the way that they would be able to say, right, we can get 100 lead here, and we're not going to have to bat like superhuman people. But again, the attack was blunted by Dean Elgar. He's not the prettiest player in the world, but he's certainly one of the bravest.
That's for sure. Well, thanks, David. I appreciate you coming on. We'll see how we this match has no more days to it, unfortunately. Next Thursday.
You can go back to your cafes and have some nice lunches. Are you sitting in a room full of memorabilia, Norman?
Yes, my own personal memorabilia. I've got General Ransonga's top that he wore in the 96 World Cup. I've got bats there I've got a Viv Richards bat here, signed for me personally. I got it when I was in Antigua about 10 years ago. And then I got one here with Wes Hall, the likes of Winston Benjamin, Andy Roberts, and I think there's a fourth person I think of there. Four people
came on before your Aussie Rules. You had a Aussie Rules shirt framed.
A rugby league one.
Oh, that's rugby, is it?
That's South Sydney when they were at their heyday. All the 71 champions are behind there. We've got Murali and Shane Warne both signed that. We've got ones over there with War and Tendulkar and Mark Taylor over there as well. Got quite a few. A lot more in I'm getting it all out of storage. I've had it all in storage. I'm just pulling it out gradually.
No, get it out on get it out to show it off. I was trying to think about all these pictures I've got which are behind my screen.
Well, you must have some doozies, surely, of your uncle.
Yeah, a little bit, but not. Well, I actually got half of it in America when my dad lived and died. So I need to probably recover that. So because I've been celebrating this sort of a week ago was well, it was mentioned on social media that 50 years ago I made my debut.
Oh, really?
50 years ago, and it was the first time I took 5 in an innings. So
I'll just show you the bat that I've got here. So I've got a bat which is unusually signed by. I've got Glenn McGrath. Just hang on. There's Glenn McGrath's signature there.
Yeah.
Tomo's signed it there for me as well. But the one that they've got Arthur Morris before he passed signed it.
Is that right? Well, at least
very special.
Australians can write, because England had to put the names of the players down one side.
Correct.
And they signed against it, because if you can have a bat with everybody signing all over the place, and nobody can decipher who's who. So at least on that bat, you can actually read their names. So to their credit,
Arthur Morris, I got to spend some time with him before he passed with his wife up in a nursing home up towards central New South Wales, just to sit with Arthur Morris and talk to him about the day that he was with, of course, Bradman at the other end. And I think Arthur scored 170 that day, and Bradman's last inning got a duck. So he claims to be the one responsible because he got 170 in his first innings. There was no need for a second innings. So he was with full of regret.
Is that Bradman's last innings then? Is that was
yes?
Oh, right, the
one Arthur Morris was at the other end, and they were scoring 170.
Yeah, Tom said he was a fantastic player.
Oh, a great man too. Very humble, very nice. Just great to talk to. And I'm going to bring Neil. I'm going to get Neil Harvey's. I've been talking to him quite a bit. I wanted him to do some stuff during the World Cup. He's now 93, of course. He's still a good friend of mine. He's a lovely man.
He knew Uncle Tom really well.
Really, really.
And he probably would have met my father as well, because that's the round. They would have been that sort of age now, had they both lived. So
what I'll do is I'll arrange one day for Neil to talk with you.
Yeah,
I'll get Neil to talk with you. That's very special.
Yeah, I've had the privilege of meeting him. He's a remarkable man.
Yeah, I don't think current cricketers talk to these guys enough, and it's a real sad state. It should make it. Every Australian captain, young captain, should be given literally a path to talk to all these guys, because their experiences are immense at that level.
And that's the same the whole world round. You know, I can remember being in Australia and talking to Everton Weekes.
Wow.
And you could do that forever and a day. Listen to him speak, and his recollections, and he's the same like all of us. We can recollect how they were dismissed like 40 years ago or even longer than that. But not necessarily what happened 24 hours before. But
that's true. Well, thanks, David. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Okay. We'll talk soon. Hopefully, the next week or so, the game will be on again.
Yeah, we'll have a preview of the next test and see what happens. How the ripples are in this country after today.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what they're talking about.
All right.
Thanks, David. Thank you very much.
Bye.
See you, David. Oh, it's fantastic having David Gravely on and being able to talk to him about a test match which has just passed now and went so quickly. in less than 3 days. In 2.5 days, England were thumped by a rather impressive South African side. Their bowling attack in particular, batting, well, was fair. I'm not getting too excited with their batting, but their bowling lineup, undoubtedly with Rabada, Norgay, Nokia, as they call him, Norgay. Then you've got McGiddy, even didn't bowl that badly as well, and Maharaj is certainly getting his act together against the Bazball team of Ben Stokes and co. It didn't quite handle it this time. Got out from 165 and then only 149 or thereabouts in the second innings, losing by an innings and 12 runs at Lord's. Very embarrassing. I'm sorry to say it's not what I would have expected the result to be for this match at all. But if, England have been summarily smacked by South Africa. And again, England got 165 all out and followed by 149. So in total, only 314 runs scored by England in 2 innings. South Africa only needed the 1 innings and 326 to beat them. And there were no centuries in the match. There was a 5. I'm pretty sure that Rabada, who got man of the match, took 5 for 52 in the first innings. Norgay took 3 as well in that first innings, but and followed the second innings. Once again, Norgay got Norgay got 3 and Rabada 2. So Rabada was named man of the match for this match. It was very impressive indeed. All right. So there we go, guys. Another day, another game's finished, and it was very impressive indeed. We've got to be able to. England's got to be able to recover from this, and this is going to be their big test. Very, very big effort to them to do that. A good photo there of Shapali and Lakshi. Beautiful photo, actually. We'll save that. Yes, it's a damn pity for England. They certainly did not deserve to win this match, and then they simply didn't do it, did they? Next match is on Thursday, and we'll see whether England can bounce back fast, because they're going to need to. They're certainly going to need to do that, because there's not much else going on. Also, we've got West Indies upcoming. There's a West Indies New Zealand match, a whole much of this 100 matches, which I'm not a big fan of. To be honest, I'm still not a fan of the 100. I can't stand the 100, to be honest with you. I think it's taking up too much valuable time. We could be playing more red ball cricket and the like, and it is very frustrating indeed. Not impressed with the format at all, I'm sorry. At all. I'm very disappointed with the format. I think they exploited it for too long and too much at the moment. So let's have a look at what we've got here. So got to be able to subscribe to this channel, guys, and support us in our endeavours. Would be much appreciated. All right, we seem to have reached the point where England have been shown up by South Africa. I don't think South Africa have a few more matches to come, but they're looking very good. Of course, England did do a job on India and New Zealand, but they have not been able to overcome a South Africa side that seems to be on the rise, which Rabada, incredible performance by Rabada. He really does deserve a big round of applause for his efforts. It certainly is. Looking at this now, certainly a lot more to be talked about in the future of this. Women's cricket, they're the horrible coloured tops. This is orangey pinky combination and a gold cap. Oh God, who's that? It's Perry's playing. She's coming up the field there. They're all playing in the 100. Overtaken by South African players, and I don't know. I'm not a big fan of it at all. I'm sorry. Having little time for the 100. It's just too much. They should get back to they're all trying to compete with. We've got Jones, Devine, Jones, Perry, Molyneux, Elvis, Arlott, Maksud. Got a few wickets there, but got 153. I just don't get this. I can't even read there's Jenny Gunn there. I can see played for Sydney Cricket Club. Bloody good player that she is. All right, so what's cloud 99? England laughable. England, yeah, it is somewhat cloud 99. England, yeah, England was washed away by Rabada and Nokia, whatever his pronunciation is. Yeah, he certainly was. We're talking here in the 100 with who? I don't know who that girl is. Amy Jones, Birmingham Phoenix. Yes. All right. We might have to end the show there. Come back again another day. All right, guys. We'll talk again next test. Starts next Thursday. It's only Friday here. What is the 100 men? What is the 100 men? It's just a game of 25 ball overs where they play from one end and move to the other end. It's also being played by the women. It's pretty ordinary. It's just 100 balls as opposed to 120 balls. That's basically the difference. All right, Cloud 99, thank you for joining us. Niraj Shalaki, Himanshu Rahela, who is a better all-rounder, Cameron Green and Mark Jensen. Well, no, Cameron Green probably is, but Mark Jensen certainly is picking up. So I'll just talk about that. All right, guys. We will talk again soon. All right? So the 100 men as well, I've talked about that before. But, yeah. All right. Talk to each other next few nights. All the best, guys.